There's a line in James Joyce's Dubliners, so I believe, I never actually read it, but still. A line which talks about a fella and it says this fella has a habit of, well, this fella lives at about a distance of 6 inches from his body. Something like that. It might have been a foot or it might have been 8. I don't really know. But the point is, of course, that he conducted himself in this way. He lived his life in such a way that he was always at a remove from his body. And that's normal enough. The reason we live at a remove from our body is because we think a lot, and thought is distance. As soon as I think about something, I distance myself from it. There's absolutely no way to think about something without creating that remove, creating that distance, creating that disconnect, really, because thought is a disconnect. It's a disconnection. We're actually, instead of being present with whatever it is, we're thinking about it. When we're thinking, we are not present. We've opted into a different reality. We've opted into a binary reality, a virtual reality, which is made up of yeses and nos. And this is the continuum of thought, or the system of thought, as David Bohm says. It's an abstract realm, full of abstractions, and there's nothing in it that isn't abstract. And yet at the same time, weirdly, there is a correspondence. So we can live in this abstract, i.e. removed realm. It's removed from the world, it's removed from the actual messy, non-digital process of life itself. And we can think about things and predict what's going to happen. And the weird thing is there can be a correspondence. So thought and reality, there is the possibility of a very close correspondence in a certain sort of a pragmatic way without getting into the essence of things. Because thought doesn't get into the essence of things, it just deals on the surface, it dwells on the surface. There is somebody, I think it's Bertrand Russell, someone was telling me the other day, said something about maths, how maths is this extraordinary thing that's not dependent upon the physical world at all. And yet somehow mathematics is very, very close. It kind of allows us to understand things that happen in the physical world. But the key thing is to remember that, going back to the system of thought, thought is always an abstraction. Always, always, always. So, to be a dweller within the abstraction space, the computational space, the space made up of all our thoughts and all our logical processes regarding those thoughts, can be good for some things. Can be good for manipulating the physical universe once we understand the rules and the regularities that the physical world is to some degree based on, not entirely, but to a certain degree. It's certainly no good for helping us to understand stuff that doesn't follow rules. Thought follows rules that can help us understand rule-based situations. But obviously, coming from that position, we can't understand anything that doesn't run on rules, like a train runs on track. Our universe runs on rules, the way we see it, but actually the real universe, it might be hurtling along, but you can be sure of one thing, there's no tracks. The universe is trackless. It doesn't follow rules. So the thinking mind is no good at all for that deeper element of reality, which is self-organizing, which isn't echoing some kind of logical statement or formula. But what it's not, I'm kind of forgetting what I was getting at in the beginning. The point is, what it's not good for is understanding ourselves. Can understand the very thin, rule-based and rational outside of us, which is the skin of an apple. It, it's what we see, but it's only a very small part. But we can't go into the essence of it, the essence of us. We can't understand ourselves. We can't actually more than understand ourselves, because that's a deceptive term. It's not that we have to understand ourselves, but more that we have to be connected to ourselves, or be able to relate to ourselves in such a way that we're not a complete surprise, not a complete alien or something like that, so that we're not alienated. So what I'm coming to in a long-winded way is that thought alienates us from the core of who we are, and thought can't do anything else but alienate us. We have to get outside of ourselves. We have to be able to remove from that part of ourselves which has nothing to do with rules and regularities and laws. And when we do that, when we do get out of ourselves, we have no sympathy for ourselves, because we can see that whatever's going on, it's not obeying the rules, it's not obeying the laws, it's messy, and it doesn't do the sensible thing that we think it should do. And so we become exasperated and even more alienated, basically, because we have no sympathy for ourselves, because we're living in the logic realm, and life doesn't happen in the logic realm. So why do we live in it if life doesn't happen there? Because everything's a lot simpler to understand, and there's actually the security of being able to theoretically know what's going to happen before it does. Gives us the jump. It's a game of one-upmanship. We can theoretically be one up on the physical processes, we won't be caught out. That's the advantage. That's why we want to live in the system of thought as if it is exactly the same thing as reality itself, rather than being super oversimplified monologue of reality itself. That's why we want to do it, because it's easy. It doesn't perplex our head with incredible philosophical conundrums. It's easy, but the price we pay is that we become fundamentally, quintessentially alienated from our own nature, which is a big statement. That's a big statement for sure. It's a whopping big statement. But for anyone who has any interest at all in human nature and how humans are, how we are at this particular point in time, it's the easiest thing in the world to see how alienated we are from ourselves, what strangers we are from ourselves. Our behavior, our aggression, all exemplifies this. Our cynicism, our cruelty, the predilection that we have towards abuse and exploitation of others. It's all due to our fundamental alienation from the core of who we are. If we weren't alienated, if we weren't completely out of sympathy and not even understanding that, or believing or knowing that there is such a thing as the core of who we are, if we hadn't had it expunged, scooped out like with all those scoopers that you can serve mashed potato with, if we hadn't been scooped out like that, we would have sympathy. But because the insides of us is gone, so to speak, what's left, the shell of us, the rational shell, the rational, purposeful shell of who we used to be, has no sympathy for what's going on anymore, because it can't understand why everything has to go against us, which it does. Life doesn't work the way we think it ought to. We don't work the way we think we ought to. And that's why we get pissed off with ourselves, or take against ourselves, or condemn ourselves. We're totally out of sympathy with our own true nature, because the self we're looking at ourselves with isn't ourself, It's a rational construct that exists within the system of thought, and it's pitiless. It's pitiless and compassionless because it's a machine analog of who we are. So thought is a machine. The system of thought is a machine realm. When we retreat into the abstract realm, the machine realm, which we do for the sake of ontological security, then we construct ourselves in terms of rules. We construct ourselves as a construct. Obviously, if we're constructing ourselves, I guess we have to be a construct. But we're becoming an analog of ourselves, a machine analog of a human being. And human beings aren't machines. They're not predictable. They don't run in grooves. Each one is completely and utterly unique. So, as a result of living in this kind of shared conceptual, analytic, rational space, we lose all contact with the actual nature of who we are. And because of that lack of connection, all sorts of unhappiness, all sorts of behaviors, all sorts of what we would call mental ill health occur. Then what happens next is that we abstract ourselves from this suffering, this mess. We abstract ourselves from it and we look at it from this rational viewpoint, and we come up with all sorts of abusive, rational interventions.